What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. Kindred is a marksman champion that was released on October 14th, 2015. They were designed to fill this unique role of being an AD carry that performed exceptionally well in the jungle. And for the most part they do accomplish a lot of what their design set out to do, and they've become a pretty cool champion. But it took a lot to get Kindred to what they eventually became. So join me today in taking a look back at their development to find out what Kindred could have been. If you guys enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button, and if you don't enjoy the video, please hit that dislike, because if this video hits 10,000 ratings, I'm gonna buy myself some Chinese food. Anyways, let's get started. Kindred as a champion started out when designer Jordan Anton, aka Riot Rex, who designed Braum, set out to accomplish this big design fantasy. Ever since he joined Riot's champion design team, he really wanted to make a marksman. He was a marksman main after all. And so after he finished developing Braum, he immediately requested the spot for the next marksman in the design cycle, and he set out to make that dream come to life. This happened around sometime in late 2013, a while before Braum was actually released. Jordan started with this idea of trying to create a marksman that was just really different and unique, so that the character could bring something, some element of gameplay to League of Legends that didn't exist there previously. And he thought of this idea of, to put it in his words, hey, what if we had, instead of an AD carry that was a target taker, we have an AD carry that's a target chooser. Most AD carries in the game kind of just hit what's in front of them, and they have to just deal with it and just hit whoever is the safest person for them to hit, to put damage on and put out as much DPS on just any target really for as long as possible while staying safe. And he really liked this idea of an AD carry that could just pick the target they wanted to kill, rather than having to attack whatever they could to not put them in risk of danger. And he thought that that target selection on an AD carry would be really fun. And going off of that idea, he started working on sort of a bounty hunter passive of like, hey, this is who I'm trying to kill, but then you get a large amount of bonus gold for killing that specific target. It was a lot more of a literal bounty hunter passive in the sense that you marked a target, and then that reward for killing that target you selected was just a whole bunch of gold straight up. And he saw that, hey, you know, we have all these really cool AD carries going bottom lane, but a bounty hunter passive isn't really that interesting on a bottom laner, since you would only ever really target the AD carry or the support. Meanwhile, a jungler has much more free time to roam around the map and engage enemies at will, and a jungler can pick and choose any target in a sense. So that resulted in him deciding on making a marksman jungler with this bounty hunter passive. And after that, he had enough direction to start to pick the character and personality to go along with that gameplay concept. But that character was not Kindred. In fact, it was far from it. The character that would eventually become known as Kindred started out as a cyborg cowboy sniper bounty hunter, who went by the name of, well, cyborg cowboy during development. This cyborg cowboy was the take on the kind of character that could fill the role of a bounty hunter. He was really tall and skinny, you know, very robot-like, and had this huge sniper rifle that he could use to pick off targets at a crazy distance. And I'm sure you're noticing that this guy looks pretty damn similar to Jhin, but that's a story for just a little bit later down the timeline of this development, so we'll get to that in just a moment. Anyway, they liked this Western robot kind of bounty hunter character a lot, and so they went with that theme and started to build a kit around it. They experimented with a couple of different designs with gameplay for the cyborg cowboy, and I'm actually really excited for this one because I got the chance to talk to the Riot Rex, the actual designer who worked on this very champion, a couple of questions during a Q&A about the very early gameplay kits that existed. And Riot Rex was kind enough to share with us a couple of different abilities. The first ability that was designed after the bounty hunter passive that the kit started with was the W. This ability started from the idea of putting down this zone on the ground that you would be really strong when you were fighting inside of it because of a massive buff. And at that point inside of the W zone, the champion became literally just Vayne with Kindred passive instead of Vayne passive. And the W zone gave a massive combat buff, but they weren't sure if the character would still work without the silver bolts type of ability, so they actually just left it in the kit on top of this huge zone that gave this massive buff. And that was the story of apparently the most broken playtest ever according to Riot Rex. The kit and this W became insanely overloaded, and so the ability was just scrapped, or I guess reworked a bit into the current W that eventually became what Kindred has today. As well, one of the more interesting abilities definitely has to be the first version of the ultimate that existed on the cyborg cowboy. The original ultimate was this put their name on a bullet kind of thing that fired a skill shot that could only hit one person with a very small hitbox, comparable to say like Jin's W or something now. And if it hit the target you marked with your bounty hunter passive, which you selected similar to how you do with Kindred's now, or anyone else who was below 25% health, it would kill them instantly. Regardless of resistances or anything, they just die instantly if they meet either of those two circumstances and get hit by the skill shot. The only thing that could save you was like a Kale ultimate kind of ability. It didn't matter if you had like 10 million HP and shields or whatever. If you were able to trigger either one of those conditions and you got hit by the skill shot, you exploded into this giant mass with like a huge animation that was just massive. The skill shot worked kind of like a Lux ultimate in that it has like an indicator that's a line with a delay, and then bam, it just instantly hits with no projectile. And to top it off, the ability was actually global. But just to reiterate, it was a skill shot with a seriously thin range, and it also had a huge channel time before actually being able to fire the ability, as like this kind of a wind-up of putting the gun together. So the idea behind this ultimate was that you would try to fire it into what would probably be the fog of war and hit someone with it. And it was meant to create like this kind of a mind game of hitting someone without actually being able to see them. And they know you're about to cast it and you're trying to land it, so where are they gonna go, where are you gonna fire it, you know, all sorts of crazy stuff. And that ultimate definitely seems crazy because of the whole insta-death part going on, but it was actually scrapped because it was a pretty useless ability in fact. That ultimate happened to be incredibly underpowered in the version they wanted to use, because it was just so difficult and impossible to land most of the time. They did try making it a little bit more reliable to land, at which point it just became broken beyond all belief, as I'm sure you could tell, so it was scrapped. Eventually, after going through a few more iterations and designs, they realized that the design that they liked for the gameplay had reached so far from the original concept that they scrapped the idea of the cyborg cowboy sniper. That cowboy would eventually become High Noon Jin though, and although Jin was changed a lot from the idea of being this westernized bounty hunter, High Noon Jin, the skin, is almost identical to the very first ever conception for Kindred. And that first iteration of the ultimate I mentioned earlier became the inspiration for Jin's curtain call ultimate later on. So yes, it's true, in the early designs of Kindred, Kindred was actually Jin. Anyway, at this point in the design, they knew a couple things for sure. They wanted Kindred to be a jungler, and they liked the idea for the design behind this bounty hunter passive. However, the version that gave bonus gold for killing the target wasn't necessarily the coolest possible version of that kind of passive. So with the scrapping of the character, they rebooted everything entirely around the passive and said, okay, we know this character is going to be roaming around, we know they're going to mark targets they want to go for, what's the most awesome version we can make of that? And they came up with this idea of doing like this yin and yang, two faces of death sort of character, because it gave them a lot more room to make the reward for killing a target that had been selected a lot more satisfying, since they could make it more than just gold. And they came across this sketch from Riot Skizix that piqued their interest. In this concept art, you had this glowing ethereal lamb that fired a shadowy wolf from its bow as an attack. This version of Kindred from the concept artist actually fired Wolf itself as a projectile, as its basic attacks, kind of similar to how like the current Kindred W makes Wolf attack a target. So imagine that part of the W, but as the actual basic attack. They really like this theme of the life and death balance kind of spiel going on, and that idea of being like this kind of incredibly neutral Reaper of Death fit in well with the revamped Bounty Hunter passive. They became these omnipresent bringers of death who arrived in the final moments of someone's life. Whether the target ran from or accepted their fate determined how peaceful, Lamb, or how violent, Wolf, their death would be. Kindred became essentially the League of Legends Grim Reaper, and they liked that character quite a lot and decided to stick with it, and build upon that theme. At the start, those two sides were a lot more contrasted from what they are now. Wolf was a lot darker and Lamb was a lot brighter, and a huge light would emanate from Lamb's bow. However, the intense contrast was a bit too difficult on the eyes, and Lamb was just honestly way too bright, and so as a result the contrast was toned down a bit, and eventually they came up with the concept of each individual half wearing the mask of the other half. You know, Lamb wearing Wolf's mask and Wolf wearing Lamb's mask. And at that point, everything clicked, and they knew that this was the character they wanted to go with for Kindred, where although both sides are separate and are essentially complete opposites, the two of them combine and work together to form one elegant whole. From there, Kindred's abilities started to get pieced together here and there from bits and patches of their earlier designs, like how their W became sort of a toned down version of the original W, but a few of the other abilities took a few tries to get right. Her E started out as what is actually their joke animation now, where Lamb shot this bow down at her feet, but upon further iterations, they decided they wanted to bring Wolf into her kit a little bit more instead. As well, with the Bounty Hunter passive, they needed some sort of aspect to contradict that and represent sort of like the life side of things, you know, the yin and the yang kind of stuff. So they came up with Kindred's ultimate. After they retired the Bounty Hunter theme, Kindred's first ultimate was essentially the ultimate they have now, I guess. However, it had a range of 2,000 units, which is just huge. It's almost semi-global, with the idea that it would affect literally everyone within a teamfight. And they really wanted like this kind of a Western, Mexican standoff effect almost, where you sort of wait until the last moment, the ultimate expires, and then boom, everyone has this Mexican standoff where you have like 10 people that are almost dead, the ultimate ends, and it's kind of like a, you know, draw, fire kind of battle that happens where everyone dies like super fast and explosively. Over time, it shrunk down gradually to isolate what Riot Rex called the good gameplay and make it a lot more interactive with the opponents and the decision of, you know, choosing to stay in or perhaps leave the zone. And it eventually reached the version it is now. And with that and a few minor tweaks here and there, Kindred's design was fully complete. Character, personality, gameplay, and all. Kindred is definitely one of the most unique champions in League of Legends in the sense that they really brought this AD carry jungler style to the game that hadn't previously existed, or at least hadn't been designed for. Kindred has proved to be quite successful in pulling off that gameplay concept, and I for one am really fond of the way that character turned out. Although they may have had some balance issues, there's no denying that Kindred is incredibly unique, and the personality and character they carry is incredibly mysterious, interesting, and really just damn cool. Although a lot of the iterations they went through were really awesome as well, I can't deny that Kindred has become an awesome champion. And that just about wraps it up. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.